Yeah, well, there's kind of a learned helplessness, a cultural, societal learned helplessness where, like, there's a Hays Code and there's cultural norms. And so movies are made in a way that's, like, still it's within boundaries that are somewhat enforced. And even though those enforcements loosen over time, the filmmakers are still doing movies the way that they had done them without realizing, oh, hey, we can do whatever we want. But there's this learned helplessness where they're like, even when the freedom is presented and the code is, let go of, they still find it hard to actually do whatever they want. It takes a decade or more to, like, really start doing wild things, which is fascinating.
Yeah. I mean, the stuff, it moves so slowly. And you think about, like, the music, politics, like, movies are always behind.
Yeah, like poetry, like Howl was in 1950s, mid-1950s.
Right.
Yeah, so here we are, 1968 still, Pasolini.
Yes, the true iconoclast. And you might want to go to the experts for your opinions on Pasolini films, but some like it unauthorized. I am Jay Brooks Young.
And I'm Zach Domes.
And we are talking Theorem, or Teorema.
Yeah.
Which is Pasolini's second feature-length film in color. Kind of marks the halfway point in his career because he is tragically abducted and murdered in the mid-70s.
Wow.
By what is now alleged to have been like a organized crime group. So he was prolific, but he didn't make films for very long, ultimately. But yeah, he was prolific in filmmaking, and he wrote novels and poetry, and he was out there debating people, giving speeches. I mean, he was very much a public intellectual back when that was still a thing,
Right. Well, it kind of came back a little bit, didn't it? The public intellectuals, but yeah,
sure.
he's a. I mean, it came back in a different kind of way, kind of self-taught intellectuals we're seeing today. But yeah, he's not afraid. It seems he's not afraid to do really challenging things.
No.
To the cat. I mean, he's kind of following in the footsteps of Buñuel in some sense. Creating things that are shocking the Catholic Church. I mean, if there's any institution that, like, kind of became a cartoonish, caricature of censorship, it's the Catholic Church, right? It's like you could do anything almost, and they would be like, "Oh my gosh, you can't do that. You can't say that. This is not allowed."
Yes. Well, and it's so curious how powerful they were in the culture, even after all the monarchies came down and all of these countries became democratic or even fascist and then democratic. But just the fact that they had so much sway and that they could, condemn a film like this and it would not come out in Italy for a period of time. It's crazy. And then, it's just like natural to rebel against that.
Yeah. And I think that Pasolini is kind of saying, and I'm not sure if he said this distinctly, but he's saying in some sense that the Catholic Church and the Italian government have become a kind of fascist entity, that they've become the fascism they thought they were trying to get rid of. They've become overbearing and political and censorial and the whole thing. So, he seems to be wanting art to be free again, for people to be free. I mean, he's a Marxist, so he wants, as is in this movie, he wants the workers to have power and have equal say.
Yeah, I would imagine he said something like that about the church, if not very close to exactly that. And I think he felt similarly about a lot of organized groups. I watched this interview with this writer who wrote a book on him called John David Rhodes, who said that Pasolini wasn't an orthodox queer, an orthodox Marxist, or an orthodox Catholic. even though he was all three of those things in some shape or form. Like, yeah, he was very much against the church as an institution, but he was also very vocal against, particular political parties or groups on the left. Around the time that this film is coming out, you have the student protests and kind of clashes with the police in Italy, and he spoke out against those because he felt that those students were the children of the bourgeois by and large, and that he felt that their movement was ultimately going to fail because it didn't have the sort of class consciousness necessary, that it was not led by an actual, like, sort of proletariat, but instead, this bourgeois educated group.
Mm-hmm. Which I think, which there is a character in Theorem that makes me think of that. So when we talk through, I think that'll come back up when we go through the details. Yeah.
Yeah. The other kind of very contradictory, I guess, thing that he said at that time was that he empathized with the police because they were, the children of the poor by and large, that, took that job for the sort of security that it gave them, and that's something you kind of see in a lot of countries. You think about, like, how the Irish lower class in this country became part of the police force in a big way when the Irish were still discriminated against, because it gave them an access to a security and a monetary stability that they didn't get otherwise, So it's like, it's just saying that, right? That's really kind of thumbing it at the students that are actively protesting and, like, fighting with police. But, he really wanted to, I don't know, make those distinctions and try to, like, fight against rhetoric or propaganda in any sense that he felt could be dangerous and could lead down the wrong paths. Like, he's kind of a contradictory guy, and he certainly, I don't think anyone would agree with every single thing that he said, but he was always sort of interested in keeping discourse very open and free, and making sure that we were constantly examining all of these organizations or societal conventions or anything, which I think, comes across in the filmmaking too, and is part of what makes it so interesting, even now.
I love that. Yeah, watching this film, I loved Gospel According to Matthew, but this movie was just incredible, and hearing all of that makes me that much more of a fan of him. He sounds like the kind of guy I'd wish was around more often. Reminds me of Hitchens or old school intellectuals, like you said. Yeah, fascinating character and complex too, right? Like, to call this movie Marxist or anything like that is, it's just to pick at one of the many things that it's doing. Yeah. There are so many different things going on in this film. It's you kind of don't know where to start with it. Well, we can start with the first part. There's sort of two parts, and so we can go part by part, and then within that, there's the different characters and how they react to the man that comes into their lives. So, like, the first part, or we're introduced to a kind of no dialogue, right? A quiet, kind of Christ-like character.
Yeah, but before that, I mean, if you go to the very start of the film, it's that faux documentary part with the workers being interviewed.
There's a lot going on. Like, there's the faux documentary that then cuts to, like, the shots of a volcano and sort of biblical verses of leading probably the tribe of Israel or something like that out into the wilderness.
Yeah.
There's a lot of religious texts that talk about being in the wilderness, which we can talk about later too. To Pasolini, I think that means nature. What's our true nature? If the Bible says something like, Jesus spent time in the wilderness, various groups have been called out to the wilderness, it's like, well, what's so special about the wilderness? The wilderness is is where we come from. It's the true nature. It's primal. It's freedom. It's of the land, and which is all the opposite of society and civilization, and where we find ourselves today, and where Catholicism seems to be very content in being. Like Catholicism doesn't feel like it's of the earth anymore. It feels like it's teamed up with the bureaucrats for how many generations. So, yeah, it starts with that documentary, and then it goes, and then it's like
to that
these
like
kind of
sepia silent images of like the family.
That's right. Yeah. Sepia. I don't know what that means necessarily, but feels old, like of a past time or something.
Yeah, it definitely creates a contrast from when he sort of arrives in their lives. But the way
like it's without color before he arrives.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I will say the way that it's shot is very similar to the rest of the film. And just watching it, I had the thought of like, was this shot normally in color and he maybe decided to change it in post as he was editing the film just to give it a different feeling, a more somber feeling at the opening? That was my wonder, because with this being kind of a parable and a lot of sort of fantastical things happening in the film, it can kind of tip into comedy a little bit. So I kind of wondered if that decision was driven primarily by just like wanting to sort of set this up as like this is going to be a somber story. Yeah.
Right. Yeah, that's a good point. That's a good catch. Yeah, this thing is, just to note, because you're mentioning that, this thing is heavily edited, and the cinematography is not like amazing. It's not the best. I mean, oftentimes the actors' legs or lower body is being cut off in a kind of awkward way, and there's a lot of space at the top, or it's handheld, but not always in a very great way. But I did think of Gospel according to Matthew again with that. It's not that it doesn't take away from the movie. It's like it's not a bad thing that it's not the best cinematography or heavily cut and edited. It gives it this kind of raw feeling. It feels very like energetic. Like it's like a raw energy that's hard to describe, and part of its imperfection produces that feeling somehow. It's pretty incredible. And the music, of course, the music choices are for sure all a part of that too.
Yeah. In the mid '60s, he wrote and I think gave a talk on this, and it was titled "The Poetry of Cinema." And he talked about how maybe like the most sort of poetic image that you can kind of render in a film is a subjective image, an image from a character's point of view. So I think that's kind of how he's thinking about shooting these different sequences, is like you want to get a sense of what any given character is experiencing. So yeah, it does seem like when it's a little handheld and a little shaky and a little, imperfect, like he's trying to get at something close to kind of what the emotional subjective experience of the character is. And it made me wonder if he was aware at all of, like those diary films, those experimental films from New York that we talked about in the Wavelength episode, because that sounds like kind of the type of thing that he wanted to get at, that kind of first person handheld filmmaking. And it's just interesting that like he's approaching that, he's sort of incorporating something like that in this, but that's not entirely what it is. There's still something objective about what the camera is doing. And you will still get very sort of static shots in here. So it's an interesting kind of halfway point.
Yeah, there was that one POV of the husband getting up and walking towards the window. That was cool. That was a cool shot. And there was another shot. Do you remember that shot of the girl when she's spinning? It's after the guy leaves. She's spinning, and the camera's spinning with her, and she's looking at the camera as it's turning around her. a fascinating shot. My wife and I were watching this and thinking, wow, how the hell did he do that? Yeah, no, really cool effects, no doubt. It's they're doing a lot of cool things. It's just that it's not, there's just been camera work, and there's been, it's like Godard a little bit. It's shot. It feels like it's shot fast and loose, and again that pours into the energy that you feel, like you said. So yeah, so you're right. So that starts off that way. Then the color, it suddenly switches to color, where we see this character with the family. Which, by the way, this isn't so clear. Like, there's not a lot. You're not really understanding what's going on at this point. At least I wasn't. You're gonna figure this out like within 20 minutes or so. Like at the first part of the film, it's very choppy. Yeah,
and it's not made clear in the filmmaking because at the start he's just like one character in this party.
Mm-hmm.
That's kind of where he shows up, and someone goes, "Hey, who is that guy?" And I think the daughter's like, "Oh, that's just some guy," but then she's looking at him very intently, and then the mother is looking at him very intently. Mm-hmm. It's kind of almost trying to throw you off,
right,
of whether this guy is important or not.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, if he ends up being kind of Christ-like in a way, and I've often thought that if a Christ-like character was to ever enter into your life, you probably wouldn't recognize that person immediately. It's probably one of the last people you would ever recognize, because they'd be so quiet and humble and, perfect almost, right? I mean, if you thought of the ideal Christ-like person, it'd be like a perfect, loving, calm person in you. Most of people in today's world would just overlook that person immediately and think, there's nothing that person has for me. Something like that.
Yeah, I think that makes sense. And I like that. That seems to be how he's like thinking about this character, and the fact that it's this actor Terence Stamp, who was, an up and coming English actor. He could have cast an amateur like he did for, the Gospel of St. Matthew.
Mm-hmm.
But it's someone who's recognizable, who's like an attractive young guy, but he's not like he doesn't seem perfect, really. He just seems like an interesting, attractive young guy.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, he looks good on the camera. He appears well, for sure.
Yeah. And then he is just sort of hanging out.
Yeah, he's hanging out. Yeah, so the first place he's hanging out is outside with the worker, the maid, who kind of she's restless. She doesn't know what to do with herself. She's very anxious and running around. But then they are intimate at some point. And then...
Yeah. Well, I get, just that first part, I couldn't help but laugh.
Yeah.
Because she is so overcome, and it's, it's very immediate in the film. We're just having to put together like, oh, I guess it's just him. I guess it's just he is so electrifying. But like her running over to brush the ash from his cigarette off of his thigh, and then having to run into the house to like go like pray in front of her altar in her room and like kiss the pictures of the saints or whatever. Like, it was really funny to me.
Yeah. Well, she understands him to be holy.
Yeah.
She's immediately recognizes.
Yeah, I guess so. But it's the feeling, the emotion is so overwhelming that it feels like sinful, Yeah,
right.
She seems like she has to be asking for forgiveness for being so overcome with emotion.
Right. Yeah, that's right.
But so are they intimate before or after she runs in and starts sucking on the gas like pipe?
After,
yeah. So that was like, I went very quickly from laughing to being like, oh my God, I can't believe we're seeing a suicide attempt played so straight in a film like this. Like that was very intense all of a sudden.
Right. It was. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I verbally was like, oh no. I was like, wow, this is quick.
Yeah, he's wasting no time.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and then so that happens, and then they go to, he's like, kind of, I guess after that moment, he's sort of like quietly telling her, it's okay. Everything's actually okay. come with me to the bedroom, and let me comfort you. Let me comfort you. I mean, what he does is, he lays with each one, but he also comforts each one. That's really what it's about. Is his ability to be so so intimate that it destroys each one of their identities. They become uncertain who they really are after they have experienced such radical intimacy, because they themselves as a family have no connection really. They never spend any time together. They don't talk to one another. It's this kind of extreme metaphor for the bourgeoisie, kind of upper class what's the word?
Like repression? Or
Yeah, repression. Yeah, it's like they have all this money, they're comfortable, but they're not connected to themselves, to anything. Just sort of the idea that we always talk about, and modernity has brought all these comforts, but it's also brought disconnection. And so he comes in and he's like fully connects with them. Is what he's saying there, I think.
Yeah, because in the connection, it goes against what would be allowed socially. It's you're not supposed to just kind of have some affair with some mysterious young man.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it just allows them to kind of let go of all of their inhibitions, all of these sort of those bourgeois conventions, those things that they have to uphold in themselves. They all, you lift the veil and you realize that all of it is sort of pointless.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. Which is, the next guy is the son, right? And so he's staying in his bedroom, and they start taking their clothes off. And the son, at that in the night, he becomes very restless and kind of keeps waking up, and he's overcome with an attraction of him, and timidly goes over to try to wake him up. And yet again, the guy, this strange mythical creature of some kind, comes over to his bed after he's woken him up and is frightened by how he woke him up, goes over there and comforts him. Same thing, comforts him. Also should mention that he goes through that art textbook with him, and they're looking through that modern art, the art of the bourgeoisie.
Yeah, I think they're like Francis Bacon paintings.
Okay.
I want to say, but very homoerotic, but very sort of abstract paintings that they're looking at.
Even though they're abstract paintings, we'll realize after in the second part that these paintings were still done in a manner in which was appropriate. Even though there's this abstract art that's being done and everything, it's like it's still all in the art world now, and the art world itself has become a kind of closed-in circle of buyers and critics and things like that, and if you truly try to do something new or whatever, you might get criticized and censored and all sorts of things like that. So I definitely connected
what the son goes through and how he's trying to break these boundaries in art later in the film. I definitely connected that with Pasolini and how he seems to be trying to break boundaries in film.
Yeah, exactly. He might be the closest representation himself is to that son, Pasolini. Yeah, and then you have the mother, the wife, and I think hers is like the most direct. It's like the most clear. Like, even though it could be metaphorical for things, hers is also the most direct. Like she's just at that house, the sort of like a retreat house that they must have of some kind, and she just kind of like gets naked when she sees him and kind of offers herself to him in a kind of longing, and she just has an affair. We don't know too much about her. I say we know less about her than any other character, but we know that she's probably a repressed wife of some kind who has probably been longing for attention of some kind, and so she sees that chance in this character.
Yeah. There's also this sort of mirroring of her and the maid, that they are probably of similar ages, but the maid is the one who does all the housework, and what does that leave the wife, It doesn't seem that she works or does much of anything, so she might be the character who is the most sort of at sea, sort of just detached from any sort of identity. I don't know. This affair gives her some sense of self, I guess, or it's just a search. Maybe it doesn't do that, but it's like a start. It feels like it's leading towards something. I'm kind of thinking about Belle de Jour too, because that film is sort of about a character like that and how it leads them down this path of being more and more adventurous in their like sexual life.
Yeah, and like all of them afterwards, they become more primal. We'll obviously get to that for sure at the very ending, but all of them become more primal. They become more like the naturalistic way of things, and going back to like a free way of thinking, and a very reawakening from the repression that they've had. Yeah, well, that makes me think of the daughter too. Then, so the daughter, same sort of thing. I forget what the specifics of the daughter are, though.
Yeah, it's sort of, she is hanging out with him outside reading, and I think it's after the father gets sick, and they are kind of together taking care of him, and when they're outside sitting together, she goes and gets the camera and starts taking the pictures of the father and the Terence Stamp character. Mm-hmm. And it seems like as she's taking these pictures of just Terence Stamp, like she's sort of seeing him fully, kind of not averting her gaze on him, sort of. And this is like
right
the moment. As soon as she takes these pictures, she like rushes back into the house, much like the maid did earlier in the film. Mm-hmm. And then he like follows, and that's when they have their like encounter in her room.
Right. Unlike the wife who at this point she's married this kind of patriarch and has become repressed because she's kind of been closed in from her role. The daughter hasn't transitioned out of the house yet. So there's probably this sense that she's like stereotypically a girl who will have to play the societal roles of like leaving the house and finding a good partner, and there's all this objectification of her for these things, what she looks like, what she can do, if she can be a good mother, wife, things like that. But this character is going to be the antidote to that. He's going to see her for who she really is, and yeah, she won't know what to do with that. Because if you've been looked at by somebody, or you've really been like truly seen in such a way, how could you ever want to play society's game after that? You've been fully seen.
All those interactions are going to be so lacking.
Yeah.
Afterwards.
Yeah, and then then we have the patriarch, and he's the fun. The comedy returned with him for me.
Yeah, he's good. I discovered afterwards too, this actor, Massimo Girotti, he's the lead in Ossessione.
Wow.
Visconti's first film.
That's wild. I did not know that.
Yeah, so this, him and the wife are both, got their start in neo-realist films. But yeah, him as the sort of aged version of that kind of powerful male sex symbol type guy. And yeah, here he is. He's like, he's feeling this like renewed sexuality. He first sees the son and Terence Stamp in bed, and then he goes and tries to initiate with the wife very quickly. He's like so aroused by that, but of course she's like, why are you being like this all of a sudden? And yeah, he's like, he just has to go. He has to go drive around with Terence Stamp and like play fight with him and do all these kind of flirtatious things.
Yeah, and he's the final one. I think because everything kind of rests back on him as like the patriarch. It's like each of the other characters, to some degree, are who they are, and they have to fulfill these certain roles that they are somehow told to enforce because of this guy and what he represents. Right? Like he's essentially he's the one that kind of upholds
Yeah.
all those other roles that those other characters have to play. So him being the last one that the man connects with is important in a way because it's really like it's really the catalyst. It's not the catalyst. It's the climax. It's the finality. And yeah, he connects with him, and that guy is kind of like, well, what's going to happen? What's going to happen to my business and to the factory and all this stuff. And because the man never says anything, it's like you already know. I love that he doesn't say anything because it is just so obvious what's going to happen. Like you're kind of learning with the characters. Yeah, what's going to happen? Nothing, right? Like they'll figure it out. Who cares in a way? It's kind of all arbitrary, right? It's a facade. You start to kind of wrestle with the same sort of things that characters are because he has no answers. He's not saying anything. He's just looking at them for who they are. You're realizing, oh, these characters are losing their identities, and you kind of already know why. You get a sense of why.
Yeah, it's so interesting. You're being met with this person that is just going to strip all the inauthenticity from your life, and then it's not really on him to figure it out for you. It's like what you have to figure out for yourself, what you want your life to be after that departs from your life.
And so now it's the second part, and we have the maid Amelia. We'll just go in the order that we mentioned them, and I think in the pretty much the order of the movie too. So we have the maid Amelia. She returns home, and this is I loved this part. I loved these parts with her. They're really fun. They're very interesting, especially the levitating part, of course.
Yeah.
That was so shocking. Like,
yeah,
they did that so well.
They really did. Yeah.
Yeah.
You can't. There are no wires. Yeah.
No, I don't know if it was like overlaid, like if it was transposed or whatever onto the film. I mean, really well done. Better than most CGI today, right?
Yeah.
But she goes back home, and it's sort of trippy how she gets back there, and she doesn't eat anything but nettle at some point, and she cures a disease from a kid.
Yeah.
And but none of this is within the Catholic tradition, though. It's just all coming from her own connection with this guy.
Yeah. It is. It's the sort of story of a saint transposed onto the modern day, where we come to realize that like those stories are so like outside the realm of what the church is or what just regular religion is. It's like it would seem antithetical. It would seem wrong if these things were really happening. Mm-hmm. Like it would, would we recognize it as a holy thing?
Mm-hmm. Right. I mean, the thing is, because she only eats nettle, and I know this is like a little bit of a stretch, but I don't think it is because of what happens to her in the end. She eats nettle, so her hair turns green. So green is really a symbol of like nature because it's the color of grass and leaves and everything. She returns to the dirt. That's how she decides to go. She goes and gets buried by the dirt. She goes back to the land. I mean, this is really kind of early, pre-societal religion is what she's connecting to. She becomes a kind of shaman in a way. She's paganistic and shamanistic, not institutional in any way. And this would be in a Marxist sense. This is like she was the worker of the five, so she's returning to her roots, to the roots of the earth and to her town and where we all come from. And she'd be the one to do that because she wasn't a part of that bourgeois society and system.
Yeah, and this is the section that is most reminiscent of the Gospel of Matthew.
Yeah.
where it feels like the Bible, the texts, the church, like all these things have obscured sort of what these events meant or what they would mean to people, I guess.
Yes. That's right. And man, that kind of hymnal music going through the back is just it was so powerful. He does the same thing with gospel. It's so good.
Yeah,
So
yeah. There's like some Mozart that uses a lot in this, but then I think the rest of the music is done by Morricone.
Oh, wow.
And it's very,
Wow.
yeah, it's all used very interestingly.
That makes sense. All right, what about the sun? What'd you think of that?
I mean, it's terrific all the way down to pissing on the canvas. But
Yeah.
yeah, I love is he says something like the artist lives debased by the feeling of having lost something forever, and that, you know, he has to just sort of kind of reach around in the dark and you know, try things without any idea of whether they will work or not, you know, like it just felt it felt so true to like the artistic experience. Like it's really impossible to have a sense of like what the art will actually be, if it will mean something, if people will connect to it, if you'll get like what you want out of creating it. But it's all sort of uncertain, and it's just like this constant act of searching for something. So just like him kind of going through these different motions of trying out different types of painting, and it felt very, very, very true. And it was, yeah, it's fun. It's like, you know, I don't know, there's something interesting there about like, yeah, the maid is, you know, becoming like a saint or something, and the sun, you know, like the world that he exists in is this bourgeois world, and you know, art is something that's like accepted in that world. It is a possible sort of path for you. Yeah, it's like you were saying before about like there is sort of the art world, which is very narrow and it has its own certain conventions, and then like if you try to start stepping outside of that, things become very uncertain. I don't know.
Yeah, it's sort of, it reminds me a little bit of like science in a way, where there's still a lot we don't know, but then scientists, like, they do all this peer review and stuff, and it's hard for young scientists to like study things that are outside the norm that's been created by that industry. And in the same way, there's like just so much intellectualizing within art, and that mind, that kind of, especially the postmodern, it's so mind oriented, and he just pisses on his painting as a kind of act of real bringing it back to the body, back to the primal again. You know, it's like, what if you just, you know, dipped your hand in mud or red paint and splattered it all over a cave wall? You know, go back to the cave in a sense. You know what like, it's fine to go and appreciate the artists who've done kind of magnificent things. At the same time, go back to the cave and see what happens when you let go of any conventional thinking at all. So
yeah, and I love how not just in him creating this art, but like in how all of them respond to the man's absence.
yeah,
how they are sort of searching for this connection, which kind of can represent youth. It can represent, you know, the possibility of being young. How like the things that we experienced when we were younger sort of become these sort of memories that haunt us, and that like we have to compare against all of our experiences afterwards. You know, like you can never be a teenager who's like sort of seeing the world for the first time again, sort of, and
right,
like the artist has to kind of reach out and try such unorthodox things, trying to kind of approximate that feeling of youth, of you know, young love and longing, and you know, those things that are in the past.
right, yeah, yeah. So then that's the mother, right? She's been repressed, and now she's experienced lust and sexual connection again. I suppose you could say. But she's the one I was thinking of when you were mentioning in the beginning the Pasolini criticizing the youth who were protesting. She kind of goes and tries to replicate what she experienced, but where she replicates it and who she replicates it with are nothing close to the same thing. So she's kind of someone who has experienced this thing and then kind of commodifies it. I think she represents what the bourgeoisie can do to, this sort of truer nature. It's like meditation apps or something like that. Like not to knock on them at all, but it is to say that like you don't need that to meditate. Like meditation is the one thing you don't need literally anything for. You can do it any place seemingly, and yet there's like all these apps for it. It's like how many times have we tried to like bottle up or market or commodify things that are already like naturally occurring and normal and like true and spiritual and pure and things like that.
Yeah. So well, help me understand.
Yeah.
Is she commodifying her relationship with the man?
Yeah. So she had that. Well, I see him as not just an undoing of sexual repression. Although that's the direct meaning for her, he also can symbolize more than just that. But yeah, for her, even like she experienced, let's just say directly, she experiences kind of a sexual awakening with a person. And then what happens? Well, now you're going and you're chasing that with other people. And what will end up happening is you'll end up like kind of losing this kind of specialness with that eventually. Because now you're just like chasing after the original experience you had. It's all to me kind of a larger metaphor for just how much commodification happens in our society and how that the commodification of things takes away the specialness to certain things.
Yeah. And it's chasing that feeling sort of the way that an addiction works, and that's sort of how capitalism, how it preys on our sort of desires, I guess.
Mm-hmm. But not only does it preys on our desires for sure, but then we, in being so desirous, also are responsible for giving in to it, right? Like she's sexually awakened, but now she'll chase that. And in chasing that, she'll dilute it. I'm sure Pasolini's criticizing that in a way that's not like, he's obviously not saying, be sexually awakened. Of course, he'd be the first person to say, be free. He's just also saying, be careful with how much freedom you mess with. You don't want to overdo it because you can lose yourself in that. And you can become a slave to the thing that you were once repressed from. You can also become a slave to that.
Yeah. I'm thinking that the shot, too, of her sort of walking out of the boy's apartment and just looking around, and that's kind of a POV shot, and the sun feels new. It's like we're seeing things in a new light. I don't know. It was a really interesting shot, and it's like I don't know if there's a real meaning to get out of it, but it was just like maybe that's like enough of a what's the word? But like sort of a confirmation. Like she's getting enough of a high from this that it's gonna kind of carry her, or I don't know, because I can't read her expression in that moment if she is content or if she feels like hollow and it's not the same. I don't know. It's really interesting. It's one of those moments where it's just like I think I could watch this movie 10 times and feel something different every single time I see that shot.
Mm-hmm. Well, I think hers is a little complex. I mean, we'll talk about the daughter after this. But unlike the daughter who becomes paralyzed, she's still able to move about and walk through the world. She's not entirely lost, right? Like there's a sense of that she has self-agency, you could say. But where she's looking for what she had found with the guy is actually in the wrong places. So she has self-agency. It's just that she won't ever actually find what she's looking for. That's a fact. I mean, that's not a fact, but it's like it's what is being said here. There's two things at once. She's one of the only characters. Yeah, she seems to be the only character here that has self-agency and can move about the world. But where she will now look for that original connection is in the wrong place. It's going to be in the wrong places, you know.
Yeah, she's kind of so free because she didn't have an identity. She was such a sort of cipher and someone without a purpose before that you know, it's going to be probably the hardest to find something real to like kind of identify herself with.
Yeah. A Christian or religious people, you would say like she's looking for God in the flesh. I mean, in some sense, she experienced God in the flesh. Like that's how profound her experience was. But now she'll continue to do that, and he won't be there. He won't be there. Not for her in this movie, at least.
Yeah, this movie's great.
It's so good. It's so good. Yeah. Okay, so now we have the daughter. Hers is fascinating. Right?
Clutching the fist.
Yeah, she's paralyzed.
Yeah, catatonic.
Catatonic, that's it.
And they just carry her out on a stretcher, put her in the ambulance, and she is driven out of the movie.
Is it too much for her all at once? She's like the youngest in some sense. Like she had that role. She's a young girl. She's, you know, soon to be finding her place in the world in all of the kind of stereotypical female roles that society would force upon her. But now she experiences this. Is it all too much at once? Is that part of it?
Yeah. I think, there could be a criticism of this part, like he sort of doesn't know what to do necessarily with this character. But I do feel like this is kind of true to life, that these emotions are so raw at that age, and to have this experience and then to have it ripped away, it does feel like the end of the world. I mean, all of them kind of have this feeling, but it does end up feeling even more catastrophic, I think, when you were a teenager. And I'm thinking about like Sofia Coppola films, and you know, the way that sort of teenage love and loss is depicted. And yeah, like I feel like this rings true. There's something very simple about it, and this was another point where I kind of laughed that she's just becomes catatonic and they're just, you know, taking her out on the stretcher. It's kind of ridiculous, you know. But yeah, I think there's something real there.
Well, yeah, I mean, in some sense, she still sees. Well, no, in some sense, she's kind of similar to the maid, and the maid, you know, she ends her life, I suppose, or she finds her way out. Well, what is it? She ends by laying in a rigid posture in the ground, in the earth, and she gets covered up by dirt. So she lays there, frozen, covered up, and goes back to the earth. She's had a kind of spiritual cycle that seems more natural and more true, and it's cycled back to the earth. Whereas the daughter, similar kind of thing. She's been awakened, maybe in a similar way, but she doesn't know what to do with it at all. She has no connection to a former society that would have told her what to do. She's been totally disconnected. So now she has this spiritual awakening of some kind, you could say. And she becomes paralyzed, frozen, kind of quiet, right? Like totally silent. This is something that religious people will do. Totally silent, frozen. But unfortunately for her, she's not in a culture that understands what that means. So instead of being understood or helped or anything like that, she's just carried away. It's a lot like it's a really good metaphor for what we do to people in this society who become like that. You know, if somebody in this society, I mean, things have changed now, but if you're in like a small town somewhere where there's not as much understanding around these types of things, and you have kind of a spiritual awakening, you may be, I mean, back in the day, you might have been locked up in an institution.
Yeah.
You know, how many awakened people there were that were actually, people thought they were schizophrenic or whatnot. They were actually would have been shamans back thousands of years ago.
Yeah. I do think Yeah, I do think Pasolini is really recognizing, especially how that happened to women.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, I mean, we know that he was gay, but he had very close friendships with women throughout his life, including the actress that plays the maid. He was very, very close with. But yeah, it definitely feels like he is really sort of recognizing and putting on screen how the sort of restrictions and the expectations put on women made it feel like they couldn't communicate, especially in a situation like this. It would feel impossible.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, it makes sense that because of that she just completely freezes up. It all becomes an impossibility.
And the new maid is the one person who realized what was going on to some degree. And in retrospect, I can see like, oh, she, she had the same name as the former maid, which I think is to say that they can just be replaced by the bourgeoisie. Yeah. And she kind of seemed like she had a sense of what was going on, and she was like, oh, come on, wake up.
No, yeah, I think he does have an idea of like at least the lower class women have more agency and have some sort of sense of self.
Mm-hmm.
He had a close relationship with his mother too, who is one of the old women like praying for Amelia when she goes back to her home. One of those old women is Pasolini's mother.
That's incredible.
Yeah,
that's incredible.
Yeah, and then the father, right?
The patriarch.
He goes.
All comes back to the patriarch. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, going to this train platform in Milan and cruising to find someone that he's gonna go into the bathroom with. I don't think we've seen this in a film up to this point. Like this is an actual sort of depiction of what life was like for gay men, or what they did at this time. But then
I don't think we have.
Yeah, but then right before he's gonna actually go in and do it, he's decides instead to strip naked, and then he is on that barren volcanic landscape, just wandering, and the scream is the last thing.
Yeah, and so what is important about that is, like I was saying, like if he is kind of the foundation for a society, unfortunately, so the rest of society and all the different roles everyone else plays is all because of and determined by the patriarchal role, then you would want your hope in any of that changing would be that the patriarch is the one who transforms and starts that new path, and which is sort of what happens. And so the optimism at the end is that he does this. He performs this act. He actually, there's no ego, there's no self now, but he performs the actions required to go back to the earth, to go back to the volcanic kind of, where the center of the earth comes from, and it comes up, and so he's coming. If he can transform, he can walk that new path, then hopefully the rest of us would, the rest of society would then transform. It's like I remember, friends have said, like, if the president ever did a psychedelic, it's like, what would happen then? It's like if the leaders of this so-called leaders of society, did some transformative experiences, then how would society begin to look? This is what he's doing. He's besides the maid, he's the only one of them that actually is doing something true according to what may have been shown to him in some sense.
Yeah, it's kind of beautiful because that one worker or maybe it's the interviewer that says it at the beginning, says like, is it just the case that anything the bourgeois does is wrong just by the fact of them being the bourgeois?
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, here's the like counterfactual of that. It's like,
right,
if they literally stripped themselves of all of their possessions, gave it all up, then they would finally be doing the right thing.
Yeah, and then like that's part of the reason why he made gospel according to Matthew. Like he's not inventing that out of thin air. That idea came
Mm-hmm.
from a particular individual
Yeah.
who apparently means a lot to all these people. So
Yeah.
good. I mean, I could literally go on talking about this movie for forever. It was so surprisingly great. It was so
I
surprisingly
I
great.
love it. I love how much you got into it. I mean, I watching it, I did have this feeling of like, I don't know, that funniness of it
Mm-hmm.
kind of took me out a little bit, and I was like, he's experimenting. He's trying to do something very metaphorical. Is there like a disconnection? Is it a little clumsy and not working all the way because of that? So I was like, yeah, I was kind of feeling like I don't know if I totally love it on that just that first immediate reaction. But I love talking about it and seeing all this stuff, that all the kind of connections that can be made. I think once I rewatch it, I'm gonna love it even more.
Yeah, I mean, yeah,
Yeah.
it was. I would agree. And, you know, the experience of the movie itself for a first good portion of it felt funny. It felt like Antonioni at times, felt Godard at times. Like it felt like a sketch almost. Rossellini. It felt sketchy, not sketchy, but like it felt like a sketch, you know, and sort of funny. But as you get to the later part of the film, and I'm starting to retrospect while still watching it, right? Then I'm like really feeling what he's trying to say, and kind of understanding it. And then in retrospect, for sure, afterwards, it becomes like a all of its wide open metaphors started to hit me, and I really realized just how what a wonderful thinker he was, and then what a wonderful artist. And
Yeah.
this is one of those films that to me it like I said, it's not perfect in a lot of different ways, but somehow the sum of its parts create a fantastic film. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, it goes such a long way. The fact that he's willing to be just so uninhibited in like the sexuality that he's depicting, in going against the dominant sort of Catholic conventions, like confronting all of these things at the
Mm-hmm.
time that he was doing that is so powerful. That makes it feel just even more amazing. Like I like Saltburn, which is a film that I think is extremely indebted to this film.
Yeah.
But that can't possibly be as sort of radical a piece of art as this is.
Right.
This literally gets banned. You know,
Right.
there was never even a thought probably with Saltburn.
Right. Right. I mean, what would you have to do today to get it banned? You have to be really just in a country that's still,
Yes, yeah, that's the
yeah,
thing. Like art it's not even considered to have that sort of power in the West. You have to be an artist working in some country that is a lot more restrictive for that to be the case.
yeah, exactly. Buñuel, I love Buñuel, but one of the things I realize now watching this, because this also felt a lot like Buñuel doesn't always provide thoughts for your own life in the future. Like he doesn't provide that much optimism, I suppose you could say, that much
Mm.
hope, which is fine. But personally, after watching this, I felt a bit more optimism from Pasolini. Like he presents a kind of open-ended idea of what to do with all of this, and that's going to come from his Marxist, you know, readings and being gay and kind of having a different perspective on life than the status quo at the time. You know, Buñuel, he tears things down, but doesn't necessarily offer any new thing. Whereas I feel like Pasolini's like, hey, there is something that we can do, and personally, I really appreciate that as another way of looking at things.
Yeah, yeah, it's fun because I think we often kind of appreciate sort of the art for art's sake and just like exploring feelings the way that like a Buñuel does.
Yeah.
but it's pretty amazing, like, that there's something that feels actionable about what he's saying in this film.
Yeah, no, and as I was watching it too, the way it's so structured, I was like, that'll just be the structure. So I'm glad that worked out. And you were like, how are we going to go through this movie? Well, he kind of made it. He made it a movie that was sort of easy to move through because it was so structured at the same time. But yeah, fascinating movie. So yeah, also Terence Stamp, the main actor, the main guy. I actually met him once in my life. I was living and working in the little town of Ojai, California, just north of LA. And he was connected to the retreat center that I was working at there, and came up for lunch one day. And he was a lovely man. He was he had like a deep voice. I guess he's read audiobooks for like spiritual readings or spiritual books. A very clear, deep voice, but a gentle soul. And yeah, he seemed like he was very interested in spiritual type things. So that made sense that he would have worked with Pasolini, and especially as that character. But yeah, he also passed away recently. Not so long ago. Yeah.
And so this was like early 2010s-ish?
Yeah. This would have been like 2012.
Yeah, that's fun. It does make sense. He would be into spirituality, wellness, those types of things. Because he's very open.
Yeah, his wife was with him, and both of them were in it together. And I also did not. I had no idea. I texted the friend who I lived with there, and who I know would have loved this movie. I said, "You've seen this movie, right?" And he had seen this movie and loved it. And then he mentioned Terence Stamp, and I was like, "Oh, that's him," because I didn't even recognize at first. He looks very different now, or then in his older age than he did when he was young. So. But yeah, wonderful guy. Wonderful man.
Yeah, that's fun. That's fun. Never know.
Yeah, well sorry to cut you off, but what's funny about it is meeting a celebrity and then not knowing. I knew he was an actor when he came and visited, but I didn't actually know what he was in really. I didn't look him up or anything. So it's not a celebrity that those celebrities that you may meet that aren't super well known. They're like in between. They're in between fame or something.
There's like a reserve of celebrities that aren't sort of actively famous. If you weren't alive and aware of what was going on when they were like super famous, why would you necessarily know who they are?
Mm-hmm.
It's always fun watching these movies, kind of getting to know who people cared about back then.
Yeah, like someone who's older will always mention oh, you guys don't know about so and so. You're too young to know about so and so. But if you go back through all the films, and watch all the older films, then you will come to know them. But yeah, R.I.P.
Yeah. R.I.P. I'm glad we did watch this. It's such a cool movie, and incredible for everyone that kind of took part in it. Yeah, it was kind of a risky film,
It was. I loved it. I don't know. Maybe I'll put it in my top 10. Who knows? Well, now we get to the part where we talk about what movie we're going to discuss next. And what did we say again?
I think we said Army of Shadows.
We're going to do Army of Shadows. Both of us watched one of his previous films, the famous La Samurai.
Yeah, and we also watched Le Dulo.
Oh, that's right. So we've watched some things by him now.
Jean-Pierre Melville.
Yeah, so that'll be fun. So Army of Shadows next. If you have any questions, comments, or want to see more about us, go to unauthorizedpod.com and follow us on Letterboxd and things like that. What else? I think that's it.
Thanks for tuning in.
Till next time.
Till next time. Peace.
Peace.